Welcome to PlayStation Corner, my name is Alex and today we're taking a look at the latest PSN sale, and we've had two huge sales drop following the Days of Play sale. These two, they're adding over 1,700 games. It's going to be an indie sale and a double discount drop. As always then, I'll be covering the US, Canada, UK, EU and Australia, so hit subscribe, join us here on PlayStation Corner for reviews and deals weekly. And let's get started. The Ascent then, to kick us off, it's back matching the low price with 35% off. I recently reviewed this one here on the channel. Find that in the pinned comment down below. Now, it originally released for Xbox, but it had a slew of issues at launch that needed to be patched, and thankfully now it's here. It's definitely in much better shape. It says it's an action RPG. I'd say it's somewhat light on the RPG mechanics, but there is at least a huge amount of loot. The idea though, a run and gun isometric style in single player or co-op, and face this cyberpunk world where you work for a mega corporation that essentially owns you. They abandon this world though, gang warfare occurs to take control, and now you'll be fighting back. Looks good though, plays good and sounds good. It's definitely going to be well worth this price of entry. Tormented Souls then is here again, also matching the low 35% off. This one, it's for the old school horror fans. I'm talking like early days Resident Evil or Silent Hill. The visuals, they have that same style. You can expect mostly static cameras and angles, and the story then, you receive a mysterious letter from what appears to be an hospital. Unable to get this letter out of your head though, you somewhat stupidly decide to go and investigate. The next thing you know, you wake up alone in a bathtub and now you're missing an eye. It's not a good start to the day. Get to the bottom of this mystery with all sorts of evil out to stop you. It has some gunplay, it is tank controls, but it's more about being strategic around things like bullet count, running when you can, and then of course solving environmental puzzles. Love the throwback though, definitely worth a look. Road 96 then gets a new low price, 30% off, and while it won't be for everyone, I found it seriously unique. The idea, you live in a world run by what is an oppressive government and kids are going missing. Now, why is that? Because they are on the run. They're trying to escape across the border, or at least trying to escape any sort of capture. You'll play as these kids though, with each run presenting you with a selection, and along the way you'll be building the story of this world and the repeating characters that you do meet. It's a procedurally generated road trip. You won't control the driving itself, rather the dialogue in between in these driving moments and then at locations that you do stop at. It is dialogue heavy and for sure a narrative adventure, but I loved the visual style. The soundtrack is stunning. I picked it up on vinyl, I liked it that much, and the evolving storyline, it keeps you hooked, as does the likeable cast. While I'm on more unusual games, and a quick shout out to Lake, where you play a woman embedded in the rat race in what is a major city. She's escaping home though on holiday to her quiet little town. She's actually helping her father out by delivering mail in his place. Explore this town though, meet the locals, come to terms with your life and identify what you want next. You know, will you return to the big city or accept this more kind of, let's say, tranquil lifestyle is gonna be for you? Definitely a slow burn, but surprisingly entertaining and definitely relaxing. A new low price then, 30% off. I actually reviewed the Xbox build of this one over on Xbox Corner 2, which I'll link down below if you do want to learn a little more about it. Cuphead then had to get a shout out, 30% off, matches the low price, but we finally see the release of the DLC later this month. Something I'm personally psyched for, so why not jump in now if you haven't already. A side-scrolling boss rush experience for the most part. It's incredibly challenging but also rewarding as you navigate an overworld and then take down a slew of boss moments in what is side-scrolling encounters. The controls are perfect though, as are the visuals and the music, and it's a blast in local co-op too, if that is an option for you. Just come here prepared for what is some serious challenge ahead of you, particularly the flying levels it contains. It's unique though to this day, and I cannot now wait for that DLC. It's known as the Delicious Last Course. Death's Door then, while I'm on Indie Gold, and this was one of my favourite games of last year, an old school, a Zelda-like-esque experience where you play a crow that acts as, let's say, a soul collector. The concept, you basically exist in a black and white world, you travel to another to collect up the death. That world is represented in colour. When a soul goes missing though on one of your runs, you need to get it back because every second in this colour world, it's actually gonna be aging you. A beautiful, almost low detail style, entertaining combat and weapon selections, fantastic writing then elevates the experience, and yeah, I hope there's more to come from this world, or at least in some form in the future. Expect along the way as well a ton of exploration, as it gives you some freedom to kind of go the direction you want to, and it's then packed with a whole host of puzzles. A new low price then, 35% off. My pickup of the week then, meaning I can't necessarily recommend it, maybe you'll want to join me for the ride, and that game is Ikai. Now, I'm not a huge horror fan myself, but I've really fancied giving this one a go since it dropped, and this new 35% off now feels like that perfect price point that I won't be too disappointed if it does miss for me. Reviews I've seen though as well, they seem to be pretty decent. It's a first-person horror experience that leans into the psychological, and it's drawing inspiration from Japanese folklore. The idea though, demons, they are attempting to invade this world, they are getting closer to our towns, and now we are sucked into this reality. Let's basically get to the bottom of the mystery. I'm expecting this one to be less about jump scares, more about tension. It's also promising a whole lot of like stealth gameplay, so I would not come here looking for action, think here more hide and run away. Into the final 3 games then, starting with F.I.S.T. Forged in Shadow Torch, and I grabbed this just after launch, was psyched for it, but it seems it's kind of faded into obscurity relatively quickly. Definitely deserves more love. A Metroidvania, it's not reinventing the genre, but it gets a lot right with its heavy feeling combat, a multitude of weapons, and they're kind of like bionic like arms, and yeah, the visuals to top it all off are absolutely stunning. The cyberpunk world though is what initially interested me, or dieselpunk I should say, and that's what ended up hooking me as well. It gets a great balance of almost think dark and sinister with a whole lot of then flashy animations. The boss moments are good fun though, and they demand you use your free weapons, and then the story, you're part of a resistance pushing back against what was the Machine Legion. You're actually one of the original animal inhabitants of this town. It's matching the low price then, 30% off. Our penultimate game of the video then, a Terminator Resistance Enhanced Edition. I reviewed this one on the channel. One of the earlier reviews, I did find that in the pinned comment down below, but this one, it's a great example of games a lot of reviewers disliked, but fans really embraced. Now, I played it back in the day, really liked it then, and that stands to this day. It's just a great use of the license, and the first-person combat is both action-packed and intense. It just balances a whole lot of like cannon fodder enemies with incredibly tough enemies as well, and as a fan of the movies, I think it's the future war we all wanted to see. This, it's a PS5 build then, and it adds better frame rate, faster loading, DualSense support, and a bonus mode where we play as Arnie himself. This like mode has a great visual style to kind of give you that Terminator feel. It's matching the low price then, 50% off, and again, full video, find it in the pinned comments. Our final game of the video then, Nobody Saves the World, and this is a recent release from the team behind Guacamelee, and this one, it's an action RPG with a cartoon-like style as you set out to save this world as the title Nobody, who basically stumbles in the opening moments, or at least we'll say stumbled, across a magic wand. The spin here along the way will be able to transform into all sorts from think knights to rats. My favourite was actually an egg and a horse, and those are just a few early examples. It's embracing the RPG though with all sorts of skills thanks to these transformations and dungeons to crawl, but I was impressed. The only thing I will say I didn't like all of that much, the roster of transformations, it gets so big towards the end game, you can feel a little like you are living in menus at points. That's a minor gripe though for what is overall an incredibly creative and fun ride, and I don't really see any way they could have gotten around this. Gets pretty challenging towards the end game as well, I'll point that out, and then it's a new low price, 20% off, not the biggest of discounts, but of course it is a recent release. And that is the week down. Will you be adding anything to the library or holding onto that cash? With that then, like, hit subscribe, join us here on PlayStation Corner for reviews and deals weekly, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.